If you're thinking of becoming a freelance editor for authors, you were probably the kid in school who preferred reading a book to playing outside. Perhaps you knew you wanted to write those stories, or maybe you wanted to be the one to publish them, or perhaps you wanted to be the one to edit those stories until they shined. And if that last one was you, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Campbell. I'm an author and a freelance editor. I have 3 books out currently, all poetry collections. The links are down below, and you can find them on library apps. I've been freelance editing for about 2 years now. I specialize in young adult and middle grade manuscripts, and of course, those services will be linked down below as well. And today, we are going to be talking about the first steps you can take to begin your freelancing journey. So please keep in mind that with the kind of services I offer, you may not earn a full-time income the first year that you set out doing this. This isn't copywriting or copy editing for some big corporation with a seemingly unlimited budget. Creative writers have notoriously been paid far less than their other writing cohorts, except for maybe journalists. So not only that, but you're going to be working with independently published authors who have a much more fixed income compared to a massive publishing house. So, a little bit of transparency for me. From 2022 to now, my earnings have increased dramatically. We're talking $52 earned in my first year of editing and $5,800 the following year. For those like me who are not math brains, that's an 11,000% increase. My third year of editing, I earned $8,800, which again is a 51% increase from the previous year. If you only look at the dollar amounts, you may be thinking, hey, you can't live on that, which is true. But if you look at these numbers from a business perspective, those growth numbers are highly lucrative in the long run. So I believe in sustainable growth and setting the appropriate expectations. Can you expand at a faster rate than I did? Absolutely. I also still work full-time, so do keep that in mind. So this is the time I can dedicate to this business while still working another job. And also one of the reasons why I love the way that I did it is because I was able to grow at a slower rate. So I was never desperate for clients and ended up taking on projects that I knew I would not like reading. So if all this sounds doable and like life's ultimate dream job, then let's dive into the details of how to start your career as a freelance editor. The very first step is understanding the job requirements. Before we go any further, you need to understand the job requirements and specifically which style of editing you want to offer, because I do not recommend you offer all of them. There are 4 types of editing that all manuscripts undergo in traditional publishing. They are developmental, line, copy, and proofreading. Self-publishing can involve all 4, but the only step that almost every indie author purchases is proofreading to catch any final mistakes before it's sent to the printers, or aka released for purchase on print-on-demand companies like Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, Ingram Spark, Barnes & Noble Press, etc. So developmental editing can be forewent with the help of beta readers and critique partners, but what most new writers won't have is this networking, and so they probably will invest in developmental editing. Developmental editors will provide a manuscript evaluation of the overall manuscript while providing inline comments and suggestions on how to improve the plot, the characters, the pacing, dialogue, everything. These are also the best paid editors, with some charging upwards of $3,000 per manuscript because of how in-depth they go into the story aspect. Line editing is performed only after developmental editing and focuses on the lines themselves, so the word choice, the sentence structure, the flow, the readability of the story. Also, neither line nor developmental editors will comment on grammar, punctuation, and spelling unless it's involved in character or place names. I like to think of line editing as the poetry of the editing world. Each line is given special treatment to ensure all of them are as well written as they can be to help carry the story. Copy editing is for all my grammar geeks, but it's not all it entails. If your authors decide to use beta readers and intense self-editing for the previous 2 steps, you're in charge of supplying a style sheet in addition to the inline comments. Copy edits involve adhering to the Chicago Manual of Style, currently the 17th or 18th edition, and the Dictionary of an Author's Country. So Merriam-Webster for the US, the Canadian Oxford Dictionary for Canada. Other countries like the UK and Australia refer to Newhart's rules instead of CMOS. Copy editor is responsible for punctuation, spelling, grammar, and syntax. Finally, we have proofreading. Proofreading is a level of editing that focuses on the finished product. So in the olden days, this would involve someone with a printed copy, reading it through for any last-minute errors in the text, as well as maybe errors in formatting, although it's less common for formatting with self-publishing, since most authors do train themselves on formatting. So nowadays, an author will send the final version of a manuscript, usually one that's uploaded to their aggregate publishing sites. So this could be a PDF, the Word document, anything like that. And they'll send it to you, the proofreader, before they actually release the book to the public. Your first task will be to decide what kind of editor you want to be. So as I mentioned, I specialize in copy editing, but I also offer beta reading as an affordable alternative to developmental editing if that's something that you cannot afford at this time. Feel free to be flexible with the services you offer as you narrow down exactly what style of editing you want to do. Secondly, let's talk about training and the courses to take beforehand. So now that we know the job requirements for what each editor entails, let's take a look at what we should do before we start asking people for money. So my background is academic. I earned my BA in creative writing, spent 2 years as an academic writing tutor, 1 year as an editorial intern for an online journal, and 2 years at a literary agency intern for YA and MG manuscripts. I spent years honing my craft as a writer, reader, and editor before I ever dove into freelance editing. There are some great courses out there that you can take to teach you these different levels of editing. So keep in mind these won't be free courses, but they do provide certifications that will help you land your first client, especially if you don't have any testimonials to back up your skills. So I recommend the Editorial Freelancers Association, ReadZ, the Chartered Institute for Editing and Proofreading, Udemy, Coursera, the Publishing Training Center, and of course any online or local college or university. So I earned my BA from a university, but I also took editing courses on Udemy to learn that side of editing as I got started. I knew what querying looked like from my internship with the literary agency, and I knew what journalism editing looked like from my other internship. But I wanted to really dive into the big components of copy editing before I took on my first client for that service. Once you've done your research on training and courses, and have taken a couple, it's highly recommended that you find an editorial organization to join to help you find your first jobs and collaborate with seasoned editors to learn everything that you can. So I mentioned the top editing organizations in the last section, but the ones that are highly recommended are the Editorial Freelancers Association, the Chartered Institute for Editing and Proofreading, ACES, the Society for Editing, and the Editors Association of Canada. Some of these are country specific, so ensure you're signing up for the one that aligns best with you. Full transparency, I have not signed up for any of these organizations after finding success on the route that I took, which we will discuss later on. However, these are fantastic sites to guarantee you're working with serious authors, receiving training and mentorship when you need it, and are surrounded by like-minded individuals to encourage you. These sites also provide job listings, so you're not cold calling potential clients, and as an author who gets cold DMs from people wanting to do my social media posts and my YouTube thumbnails and my book cover design, let me just say, don't be that person. Joining any of these organizations does provide you a leg up on competition because it proves you're serious about your editing services and aren't trying to scam them with mediocre feedback. You'll also know exactly what pay rates you should charge based on your offering and experience, and the EFA has a pay chart that's updated yearly so you can know what you're charging and to ensure that it's meeting the market rate specifically, because once you're skilled, you deserve to get paid what you are worth. Now, on the other side of job hunting are platforms such as Fiverr, Upwork, Contra, Freelancer, People Per Hour, and a million others. I chose Fiverr, and while I do have profiles on Upwork and Contra, I have not updated them since I accrued my 160 plus testimonials over on Fiverr, so they're basically dead profiles that I really need to update. However, Fiverr offers you a chance to let clients find you instead of the other way around. Remember in the beginning of the video where I mentioned I made $52 in my first year of freelancing? I signed up for Fiverr in August, Received my first client in October and worked with 4 total clients in that span to earn my $52. So Fiverr and similar sites are not for the faint of heart, and it's hard to land your first 10 clients to get out of the new seller hell. However, I now earn more than I ever thought possible, and I don't have to find my own clients, which for me is a whole different kind of hell. On the downside, these sites do take a percentage of your earnings, with Fiverr actually being the worst, with taking 20%. But like you've heard me say before, if you've been here before, 20% of 0 is 0. And I'm going to stay on the platform as long as I'm seeing profit and increase year over year, which again, we saw at the beginning is what's happening. So for those who would rather not part with their money, you can always market yourself. The best way to do this is on social media. Most authors are on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. I suggest finding some indie authors you love and sliding into their DMs, asking if they'd be willing to let you perform an editing service at a stupidly discounted rate in exchange for a testimonial you can use to market your service. Notice how this is different from telling someone that they suck at what they're doing and they need to hire you. So just for clarity, my first beta read was $10 and my first copy edit job was $200 for a 50,000 word manuscript. You should go look up what the current rates are so you can understand how low both of those numbers are. Most authors are more than willing to do this with you, especially since it'll be a service that they'll more than likely need done at a point in the very near future. I recommend following these author accounts, interacting with their posts for a little bit, and understanding the genres they write so that when you do ask, they recognize your name and you can let them know, hey, I offer proofreading services, but I'm looking for my first testimonials. I loved your last release/series, and I want to specialize in this genre, this age group, whatever it is. Can I proofread your next manuscript for a highly discounted rate, or provide a sample proofread of a few chapters in exchange for a testimonial to put on my profile/website? Thank you in advance. Have a great day. Don't be creepy, and don't be very demanding either. Remember, they have every right to just say no thanks, and that's totally okay. That's acceptable. So I know it sucks to not be paid for your work or to be paid very little for your work, but getting those testimonials are what will encourage authors in the future to book with you without you reaching out to them first. I recommend getting 5 positive reviews so that you can advertise on your social media channels and on your website if you have one. We'll get to that in a bit. So authors know you're experienced, trustworthy, and tested. Finally, if you're going the way of the solo editor and avoiding the fee-snatching platforms, you'll need a website to direct your clients. There are tons of free ones out there, but you can also purchase a domain name on a site like GoDaddy for a reasonable yearly fee. So my husband is the tech mastermind, so he's constructing the bones of mine via a platform software thing called DreamHost, and once that's built, I'm going to go in behind and set everything up how I want it. This will be the shortest section of the video because, as you can probably guess, my site is not live yet because I've been focusing on building my Instagram and my YouTube community in addition to just my editing clientele. However, this also means you don't need to stress about building a website right out of the gate if that's something that's completely new to you and super intimidating. What you do need is a contract to send to clients to ensure that you get paid. These can be found all over the internet, so grab one that pertains to a service and tweak it to include the description of the work that will be done. So for example, like I just said, the description of the job needs to be done. You need to have the time frame, the description of both parties, so editor, freelancer, and writer, the expected pay dates, the avenue the client will pay you, a confidentiality clause so that your client knows you won't steal their work, and a termination clause if the writer decides not to pay you at all. This is also not an exhaustive list. Please do your research before having your first client sign any contract. I apparently can't speak anymore. That's okay. It is highly recommended that you collect the first payment up front, so when they initially book you, and you collect the second half either when they send you the next manuscript or when you let them know it's done. But never send them the work until it's paid in full. The copy editor I hired had me pay the other half the day I sent my manuscript to her, and then she sent me her notes and feedback about 2 weeks later, which is very normal. So it's also why you need those testimonials we talked about earlier, so new clients do know you're trustworthy and they're okay sending you money before they actually get the work back. For website booking, Google Forms is a great free thing to use to gather information from potential clients without giving them your email if you're not ready for that. And also please have a different email for your editing business as you do from your personal life and even your author business if you are also a writer. You can take payments directly on your site through services like Stripe or directly to you through Zelle or PayPal. And lastly, start your business. There you have it. You have the steps to start offering freelance editing services to authors. So this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but I hope it provided plenty of information and answered your questions without being overwhelming. Of course, if you still have questions, let me know in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. So if you're subscribed, and if you're not, now is a great time to boop those subscribe and like buttons. Then you may have seen my post about my monthly editing income videos that will be coming on the last day of every month starting this month. So if you want a little bit more of a deep dive into the services I perform on a regular basis, be sure to follow and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss the very first update. And with that, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Bye.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across